Core. Core. Core.
Core. You are listening to Core, a show on Code Zero Radio that plays bands located in the Fox Cities. A show to find and discover new music. Hosted by Andy McNamara.
With Fox Valley ties, Zeroed Hero is a rock band currently based out of Madison, Wisconsin. Their official bio describes their music as a black and blue rock and roll, colored rock and roll. So we're going to ask them about that and what exactly that means. The band's last release, Love Letters to a Mannequin, earned them the title of the Madison Area Music Association's 2020 Breakthrough Artist of the Year. And today they're releasing a brand new single, Rise Up. I'd like to welcome Zeroed Hero to the Core Show. Welcome, guys, and congratulations on the new single. Thank you for joining me. I know it's pretty early. Is it early for musicians today?
Yeah.
Well, not during the pandemic.
So I want to ask you, first of all, what does black and blue collar rock and roll mean? Because that's listed a lot on your bio and on your websites.
You want to take that one, Chris?
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah. I think. Well, essentially the ethos I think that we're going for is the whole blue collar thing and the whole black and blue. You know, like rock and roll, taking some lumps and getting back up and keeping on doing things. And so we just kind of mixed it. It sounded cool in terms of a tagline, because you're always looking for something that's going to set you apart a little bit from other folks. And there's so many different subgenres in rock, and it's difficult to carve out a niche that works out for you. So that's kind of the ethos that we were going for with black and blue collar rock and roll.
When did the band get together? The band originally was started by you and Chris, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After our last project closed down, inevitably as what happens with musicians, you get bored, you get the itch, and you find that the things that you thought that you were going to get after or get involved in end up not coming together quite the way you had thought. And so Dean and I started writing songs for an album. And the idea was to try to put together these songs and enjoy the process, and then collaborate with a bunch of people in and around Madison that, musicians that we already know, and again, have a good time. And we did that. And then it was time to put a band together. So that's kind of the genesis of that.
And everybody here's been in bands prior to Zeroed Hero. How did you find Tony and Stefan?
Well, Tony, why don't you tell that one?
Well, I don't know. How did you? No. The thing that I remember is my wife, Beth, who's a musician here in town, too, had a show. It was called Chick Singer Night, where they have a house band and different ladies sing a few songs. And it was our anniversary, and I got up and sang a song to her, sort of as a surprise. Dean was there. He heard my singing. I think he just really thought it was amazing. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
He did. Tony killed it that night. It was awesome.
But I talked to Dean about the album, and Beth had already actually had mentioned it to me about these guys, and Dean gave me one of the CDs, and I listened to it in the car for several weeks straight. I was really kind of hooked on it, and kind of reached out to Dean and said, "Hey, if you ever looking to need a drummer, then let me know." And that's what I remember.
Yep.
And how did Stefan come into the mix?
Stefan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah. Well, basically, I kind of met Dean through another musician that he was involved with, and then we were doing a show and I know Dean was a musician. I got to know him a little bit, and heard that he finished an album. And then all of a sudden, at one point, he just called and said, "Hey, we need a guitar player to do this whole project thing. What do you think about it?" And at that point, I've done some.
I think we're having a little mic problem there with Stefan. So I'm going to have to go back to him.
Video? Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. Well, do you want to kind of elaborate on that, Dean?
Yeah. So, we met Stefan through Allison, actually, and Allison started out the band with us as well. She was also one of the guest artists on vocalists on the recording for Love Letters to a Mannequin. And when we started the band originally, it was 5 people, and we had Allison along doing background vocals and keys, which was an excellent addition to the live sound for us. But yeah, so I met Stefan through Allison, and we approached him knowing that he was a great live performer and weren't sure that he wanted to play rock and roll again. But Stefan, you're back on, so you can jump in there again now too if you want. But thankfully he said yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like right there. I was at a point like it'd been a few years since I'd done a rock project, so definitely it just lined up perfect. I was like, yeah, definitely feeling like doing this for a minute, So it was fun and it's just fresh, something to do, and got to be, it's a great group of people, so it's just a fun thing. And it's the first time doing a project in a while where everybody was just kind of like, we're on the same page in life and everything. Like, let's just do our music and let everything else, go. It was fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Amen.
So Stefan, you've been involved in lots of bands for quite some time prior to Zero Hero.
Yeah, so
we lost Stefan again. Okay, well, we'll go in a little different direction. When this album was conceived, it started off as a project basically driven by Dean and Chris, as far as the songwriting, right?
Yeah, it was an immaculate conception.
We easy now. Yeah. So it's funny. Chris and I do everything weird or different or backwards or whatever, and so we wrote the music going through the whole process and then put the band together instead of the other way around. And we've just gotten super fortunate that to end up with Tony and Stefan, phenomenal musicians and great live performers and with lots of experience. And like Stefan said, we're all on the same page with that. So it's worked out really well. And I love the way this has evolved, because the way we're approaching this EP and the writing of those songs is totally different to how Chris and I did it before. And it's very collaborative, and it's cool that everybody chimes in and we're all invested in what's going on with the new stuff. So it's really cool that way.
When you were writing the first album, did you have a concept for the album as far as how the songs were going to be kind of structured, what they were going to be written about, or was it scattershot a little bit from everywhere?
You want to start with the music on that, boss?
On the first record, I think it was a little bit of everything. Most of the time for that record anyway, we started out with a riff or a chord progression or, basically a pile of raw material. And, we would sort through that raw material and figure, separate the wheat from the chaff kind of a thing, and then put together the bones of the music for the song. Here's the verse, here's the chorus, here's the bridge, whatever kind of a thing, and put an arrangement together. And then Dean would put lyrics together on that.
So I think, from a musical standpoint, there wasn't necessarily a theme other than just what resonated with us as we were going through that. But that writing process was over a couple of years, right? So it took a while. Mm-hmm. I think thematically, there wasn't necessarily, it wasn't like Quadrophenia, right? It wasn't, this rock opera or anything like that. But there was a theme. I went through a really difficult point in my life with the divorce and so forth. And so that kind of motivated me in a very specific direction in terms of what resonated with me in terms of loss and recovery and all those other sorts of, life themes and things like that. So I think that there is, as the title implies, there was this idea of, and one of the things that I was working through myself was I write letters periodically to people that were no longer in my life, across the board, lots of different things. And that was kind of a way to kind of get some things out there and take care of it. So it kind of conceptually, that's what tied it together for me, is like each of those songs speaks to a little different piece of somebody that was in my life and isn't anymore, or, changes I've made in myself and all those sorts of things as well. So that's kind of loosely how that got tied together.
Yeah, the lyrics are pretty personable. There's a lot of mention of, there's a couple songs that mention dark in the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get the sense of like the whole sense of trying to connect with somebody that you can no longer connect with. Mm-hmm. And I think that the title is one that gets your attention, Love Letters to a Mannequin, and that cover is so great as well. And I know you used a lot of people in the Madison area to help with this album. Who did the cover art for that?
We had Dean came up with the idea based on a vignette photo that he found online, and so there was a seed from that, and then we kind of built on that and put together an idea for what we wanted that cover to look like. And then we worked with Adeline Peck here in town, a photographer, to put those photos together for that. And then we worked with Craig Grabhorn from CCAL Design in Sheboygan. And who's the guy who connected us with Craig? I forget. He's the guy who runs the Shitty Barn, or used to.
Yeah, Chris Barnes.
Yes.
No, that's Barnes isn't his last name. Anyway, yeah, the guy that started Shitty Barn, Chris. Anyway, I can't remember.
No, is that the first time any of us have sworn on this so far?
We're like, I'm sorry.
15 minutes in.
I'm sorry.
I know. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to take that long. I took the under on that one, man.
Yeah, fair.
So you had a lot of musicians as well help on this album. I know Tony's wife contributed, Beth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was it as far as, were people pretty ready to jump on board?
Yeah,
with the project?
I was pleasantly surprised, and we got a lot of different folks, and I think that was, for me at least, that was the most fun of this project, was collaborating and working with other folks. Because again, Chris and I had been toiling away in the basement studio for a couple of years on it, and it was cool to get other people's input on what was going on and to get the different flavors. And it's one of the things that I like about having Tony and Stefan involved in the writing process now, is you get another influx of flavors, this infusion of other sorts of things and influences and stuff. And that's, to me, that was kind of the perfect seasoning on a decent meal, with having all those other musicians in. And yeah, I mean, there were some folks that we approached that weren't interested for various reasons. Some of it was schedule, some of it was, your music sucks and that kind of stuff, and that's all part of the deal. I'm just kidding. Nobody actually told us that to our faces. But,
the question for Tony and Stefan.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
For Tony and Stefan, was it hard to learn the parts for the musicians that played on that first album? And did you feel that a little pressure knowing that Chris and Dean might be a little bit more critical of wanting it to sound exactly like the album? Everybody's kind of got their own style. Was there any pressure there?
They're horrible. They're terrible. No. Now the cool part about it is they were both from the get-go. You guys approach this from what you're getting out of what you hear from the recording, and there's different tracks, different musicians, different parts. So it was like interpreted how you can, make, and it turned out really fine. I think we came out when working for the live show and everything, and a lot of that stuff grabbed me right away from I think it was Dennis who did a lot of that, wasn't it? And a lot of his riffs are really cool. We got a lot of similar influences and stuff too, so that kind of worked that way too.
Yeah, the guitar tones on the album are really strong, really thick tones and good stuff. And Tony, how was it fitting into the drum pocket?
Yeah, I feel like I would agree with Stefan. I think Dean and Chris were great to work with. From the get-go saying, it doesn't have to sound exactly like the album, or we're the structure and the general concepts we want to keep the same. But and I didn't really have designs to change stuff dramatically, because I feel like the parts that were on the album were great, and in fact really felt more pressure to live up to that playing, because it's really well done, and I probably don't, but so the modifications primarily are dumbed down, so it's something that I can actually play. But it's been fun. I think probably like any project that I've been involved in anyway, what you end up playing on the stage after a couple of years sounds different than what's on the album. Even if we had been part of the putting it together and on the recording, I think things just evolve, and I feel like that's the case. During the pandemic here, I've been starting to listen back to the album, because when we get back together, we're gonna want to start rocking again. And when I listen to it, I'm like, wait a second, that's way faster than we normally play it, and stuff like that. But that's good. It's gonna be fun to hear it again, and
it's like
maybe it's gonna modify again.
We have a question here from Matt. He said he remembers Dean was in a band called Galax. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Galax.
Can you comment on how that influenced your current music? Thanks
Absolutely.
for the question, Matt.
You bet. So Galax was a great metal cover band that I played in shortly after high school, and we were really loud. That was a great time. We had a lot of fun. No, the couple things that stand out to me, and truthfully, Matt was in that band with me, but we didn't have a bass player. So that's the first thing that jumps out to me in the music that we have now, is that we've got an actual bass line going through the songs, and I can appreciate that even more now. And I also love the fact that Stefan actually plays in tune on stage. So that's carried with me a lot as well.
It's an important part, isn't it?
It is. It really is. But no, truthfully, the thing about Galax is it was just a really fun ride. I mean, and it was making music with people that you really love being around. And this band for me is exactly the same thing. I love being with these guys, whether we're hanging out barbecuing, hanging out talking, hanging out playing music, whatever that is. I love these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And amen on that. And I miss the hell out of these guys, because, you get used to spending so much time with people,
stuck at home.
Right. Yeah. And the people talk about the Dean and me and the way we interact together, but that's really only because we spend so damn much time together. And we've developed that with Tony and Stefan too. And you get to missing spending that kind of time. And it's not, like Dean said, it's not specifically this or specifically that. It's that, just that group vibe. And I think that when I think about the strength, if there is a strength to Zeroed Hero, it's that collective vibe that the four of us have. That's the principal strength of the band, and anything else good about the band flows out of that, truly.
So if you guys had to kick one person out of the band, who would you kick out? I'm just kidding.
I'm the jackass that can't remember lyrics half the time, so they're always talking about replacing me.
Do you guys prefer to work on new music, or do you prefer to play live shows? Because some people prefer to be studio rats, and some prefer to get out there and play the songs.
Stefan, what do you think of that one?
Well, actually, the thing that, it was kind of like 2019 before the pandemic became the best of both worlds, because we kind of started doing our writing and really kind of putting together the new stuff. And we were playing a lot of shows. We played with you guys a couple times too, and it was just like that whole vibe. And that was like the perfect time. So like So when it came down to, even before the pandemic, we knew we were going into the studio. It's like, okay, now it's like start tracking, let's do it. And then it's like, shutdown. What do we do now? So it's like, you know?
Yeah.
So I think everything's grown to that point just organically, organically from get the music down for me and Tony, get us make the whole band sound good, then actually play shows, get the vibe, and then just kind of started tinkering around. And next thing you know, we're working on new stuff as we're still playing shows, and it's been a good ride. That's what I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a question here. You're on the air with Zero to Hero. What's your question?
Hi, this is more of a personality question. I was wondering, what Muppet or Sesame Street character do you relate to the most, and why?
Who wants to take that one? I can see the thought bubbles going on here.
I'd
You got one,
say
Stefan?
it's a little cross between Animal and Zoot, the sax player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dude with the glasses, and honestly, I can't remember.
Beaker?
He played guitar. I think he played guitar technically.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, he just kind of
Yeah.
he just kind of chilled out. So I think for me that would be who that is.
Tony, you got one?
I'm like not thinking. As soon as I heard the question, I was actually thinking Sesame Street, and when Stefan answered, he's like, "Oh no, she did say Muppets." So I was gonna say Ernie from Sesame Street, but that's not a Muppets character. I don't know why. He's just kind of funny.
Well, he's a Muppet.
Yeah, they came from the same place. So
Okay,
truly,
yeah, same sort of thing.
You could do that.
Yeah, he is
Tony,
a
I was thinking the Swedish Chef for you. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. No. No, Tony's got a goofy side to him. I mean, it's fun. But for me personally, I think I'm a Waldorf and Stadler guy. I think that Chris and I get accused of that oftentimes of being Waldorf and Stadler. So I'm
Very rightly accused.
And I don't know which is which. So you can whatever one has less hair, I'll be that one.
But I gotta give a shout out to whoever named that band, because the Electric Mayhem is the perfect name for a rock and roll band. It's perfect. You can't top that shit.
Well, I want to thank the caller for the question. If you've got a question, you can call in or just put it in the chat on the live stream. We had a question here from Bob Minter. Does bratwurst go well with mead?
Hell yes, it does.
Bob, the right mead can go well with anything. So, that's a fun. So there's some context for that. So we had an interview with Bob at Mile of Music. Yeah, we had with 2 years ago. We had an interview, and brats and mead came up, and so appreciate you remembering that, Bob. And good to see you, Bob. Hope you're doing well. Miss you guys.
Matt asked another question, and we're kind of going to get to this, but what are the names of some of the new songs? Do you want to divulge any? Well, you can say "Rise Up." Just throw that one out there.
Rise Up's the new single.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're going to be playing that one in a little bit.
Second Guessing.
Yes, Second Guessing. That's going to be oddly enough, that'll be our next release.
Are you guys gonna start doing singles instead of a full album? And do you think that singles is the way to go in today's age, or do you still prefer releasing full albums? I mean, if you could do it again, would you release Love Letters to Mannequin?
I think we're gonna leak it up to,
leak it and then put the whole thing out.
Who knows?
Yeah, like yeah. I mean, and you
never know.
I don't know. I think it really depends on what your goals are and what you're trying to do and all this kind of a thing, and because there's pluses and minuses from a promotional, I suppose, approach. There's pluses and minuses to both, right? And for what's going on right now, it just seems like putting out singles on a regular basis or a semi-regular basis. Just kind of feels like it's an appropriate thing to do right now. Having grown up on vinyl, I'm a sucker for albums, and because that was, in my mind, that's how music was formed in my consciousness. For me, it was, you've got this big black disc of magic, and it's got 8 or 10 songs on it. But that's evolved over time, and that's not the way music exists for people anymore. And so who's to say?
It almost seems like when you're releasing a full album, you're putting it out. You kind of like blowing the whole thing out right away instead of just trickling it, where people might focus on one track instead of, each track individually. I think the Love Letters to Mannequin, though, is really solid all the way through. It's a good album to listen to start to finish. The mood changes up in it, and I'm wondering on the next release, are you guys like Rise Up is a pretty rocking song, and of course the subject of the song is some pretty heavy stuff. The next album, the stuff you guys are writing, is it going to be more heavy? I know Stefan's got sort of a heavier background. Are you going to have still some of the ballady type stuff mixed in there yet? No offense, Dean, on the ballad.
I think it's not as much ballad, but definitely it's definitely like we got it's a lot more. It's like vocal. We're still like a very, still with like a lot of the harmonies and everything. Just a more maybe straightforward rock edge, a little bit more. I don't know if necessarily heavy, a little bit heavier at times, but still meat and potatoes digging in there. Just guitar. That's what I like about it. Just like guitar, bass, drums, vocals. Just straightforward. Even a little bit more of the blue collar, but not, but more just, this is more how you feel of us live, a little bit more of the live feel too, because it's been a full unit, So now you got 4 people. It's more of that 4-person vibe, not more of just like the concept of 2, but now we've got this force, so you'll feel it like that way. It feels heavier that way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say, maybe the terms I would use would be it's more groove and maybe less drive. I mean, there's still some hard pushing stuff, but I don't know. It feels a little bit like we've added a little bit more of a groove to the stuff compared to the album. That's my take.
Yeah,
I would agree with that entirely.
Is the writing process differently? Like, are the new songs coming together from jamming as a band versus Chris and Dean sitting, somewhere writing that last album?
Yeah, one of us brings in, again, an idea, and then, it's kind of a crap, not crap. You play 2 or 3 or 4 pieces, and then you put something together, and inevitably, something that somebody brings to the table that they're all jacked up about. Everybody else is like, nah, I got to wash my hair. but there's always a couple of pieces. And then once we start playing those pieces as a band, everybody kind of feels their way around them a little bit, and they evolve a little bit. And then the 4 of us kind of start to see a direction, and then everything flows out of that.
We've got another question, another caller. What's your question for Zeroed Hero?
Hey, my name's Dan. I have a question for the band. Could each of you name 2 bands that were the most influential to you coming up and that influences your musical talents or your musical opinions about how you should do things? Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
All right, I'll start.
Go ahead.
Number 1, The Who.
So messy. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Number 1, The Who. Number 2, Cream.
And why?
Well, again, because of my dad and his vinyl collection, The Who was how rock and roll was defined for me. And that, for whatever reason, that was the magic that spoke to my heart the most, kind of a thing. And so, you know, I've always, I listen to a lot of music, but rock and roll speaks to me most natively, I think. And so going back to what defines rock and roll for me, it's the Who. And then the Jack Bruce's bass playing on those couple of Cream albums is magic. I love it. And it's a completely different vibe from the Who in a lot of ways. But what Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker do on those albums is crazy. So
go ahead, Stefan.
Oh wow. Let me see. There's so many. I'd say it'd have to be definitely on the rock edge, probably Van Halen. I mean, just enough said. Just the whole, that's the rock show, Eddie Van Halen. I mean, nobody's touched anything like Eruption ever. Just influence. And then also things like, there's so many other ones, but I'd say that big influence would be a band like Earth, Wind & Fire. Because that's just a complete just of everything. You can go rock, jazz, soul, the vocals, putting that heart and soul of everything that is rock, and it's just so much more. But everybody just, both of those bands, I think, just influenced so much music throughout the world.
I'm gonna go probably from the drum part standpoint, like Led Zeppelin. I like there's a really very natural and kind of a raw sound that Bonham plays, and you know, it has fun with syncopation and things like that, but it's still really very, you know, really groove, a lot of you know, that blues kind of flavor. So I'd probably go with that. I don't know. It's so hard because, you know, you go through your phases of, you know, stuff that you're listening to at the time. Probably more recent, you know,
right.
In the last couple decades, I'd probably say something like Incubus. I like the energy, the creativity, still pretty rocking, but you know, very lyrical. And so those would probably be the two that jump to my mind.
For me, I think looking back, you know, because we're all classic rock fans too as well. And I think that one of the biggest influences for me as a kid was Styx. And I used to love listening to their albums coming out, you know, and getting really into that sort of stuff. I like that they had different songwriters. They had different textures, a lot of complexity and a lot of great harmonies with all their music and things like that. So that has certainly, I think, influenced how I look at writing and how I like music. From a more contemporary standpoint, I think the Foo Fighters, I really like more for their ethos in that band just likes to play and have fun. They don't get carried away with all the other bullshit that goes on with rock and roll industry and all that stuff. It's like Dave just plays, and you feel in any situation he's just going to get after it. And again, that's something I like to emulate, and I think our band likes to do the same thing. I mean, we just want to play and put all the crap away, and let's just do what we love to do, you know.
Well, speaking about video, so you guys have a video for Rise Up, and there's some really cool studio footage. I want to know who shot the video, and where did you record that?
Tony?
Yeah, so the video was shot by my buddy Mike Rapiak. He's a real old friend of mine who he's real big into. Well, he's a landscape architect, and he uses drones to kind of as part of his work. So he's real big into kind of techie stuff and cameras and stuff. And he had showed me this camera that's it's like a 360 camera where it's, I don't know exactly how it works, but it sounds like there's like a really wide angle lens that are put, two of them put back to back. So you can basically kind of look in all directions. And then the data, once you record your video, you can really play with sort of the perspectives and kind of turn things inside out and really change it up. So when I saw that, I thought, how cool that would be for a music video kind of setting. So I talked to the guys, and Mike came in when we were recording our album. And I think it worked well because the setting is a pretty cool studio setting. We're all able to be kind of in the same room, and given the limitations of doing it during the pandemic, I felt like it turned out pretty good.
And this is available. People can get this today, right?
Correct. Yeah, the video's out on YouTube.
Yes.
And via our website.
If they want to purchase a single, is there a specific place that they should go?
Yeah, they can go to zerotohero.com. They can
Everywhere.
go to Bandcamp. Everywhere. They can go to Amazon Music, Apple.
TikTok.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
When you're writing that
Yeah.
one,
Thank you.
when you're writing that one, was it hard to? Obviously, there was so much going on in the country when you were writing it. Was it easy to be inspired to just come up with the lyrics to that one? And it's obviously it's hard hitting. And we had a comment that said that's rock and roll, and I agree. That's spot on.
Lyrically, and I don't want to take credit for the music on that one because Chris brought in the riff, and Stefan and Tony just made that song absolutely freaking rock. Which is it was easy for me to put something on top of that because I think kind of the way I approach a lot of the lyrics, especially with this band, is I'm a very visceral sort of. That's what music is for me. It's visceral. I feel it. I don't listen to it. I don't see it. I feel it. And so what was, I made a list when we had the tracks that we were looking for to kind of go on this EP. I made a list of all of the things that were going on that really resonated with me. And so, and I just plugged that into this song. And so, interestingly, this was completely finished lyrically before the pandemic. So I want to be real clear about that because I think it's going to be interesting in general for music, the stuff that was done pre-pandemic versus in the pandemic versus post-pandemic. I think you're going to see some real interesting sort of things come out of all that. But lyrically and musically, this song was completely written before the pandemic. But for me, it hit hard because I think the divisiveness in this country over so many different things and just an opportunity for us to kind of maybe step back, regroup, and get beyond some of the stuff that's going on. And it resonates now even more. I mean, after the whole George Floyd incident and the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that, this song for me, through the last major shifts in our culture, over the last 12 months, 15 months, it's taken on a little bit different take for me personally. And so that's, I don't know, that's a little more than you ask for, but that's kind of where I'm at with the lyrics on it. It's kind of the way I operate. I always talk too damn much.
I was going to ask you earlier when we were talking about the Love Letters to Mannequin album. How did you get hooked up with Mike Zirkle? Mike Zirkle mixed the album, except for one song that Chris mixed.
Well, it involved a large briefcase full of cash.
Monopoly money.
No, Mike is in the very best sense of the phrase a fixture in the Madison music scene and beyond. And when we were putting the album together, we checked out all the studios in town and we picked Paradigm because of it at that moment it was a perfect blend for us of the environment and Jake. And there's a lot of great studios, in town, and we checked them all out. And then when it came time to mix, it was kind of that same thing, except, we knew for sure it was going to be Mike because, it was very, very short list. There was only one name on it. And we met with Mike and we assumed that he was the ideal person for that project in that moment. And then we met with him and then we felt even more that. And now having gone through that with Mike, I honestly, I can't imagine working with anybody else on that record.
Can you guys give a couple, name drop a couple bands in the Madison area that you think maybe should get some ears on them today?
Sure, I do like Mickey Magnum. Nathan
I've seen anybody
mentioned something earlier. Mickey Magnum is it? Go ahead, Stefan, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I'd say him. If you shout some younger bands, Quick and Painless. There's there's so many bands that are out there that we love. Natty Nation, big shout out to those guys. Band I was also in for a while. So there's definitely
because
there's definitely so many bands that, and I also go ahead.
No, you're fine. No, it used to be Distant Cousins. They changed
Also,
their name.
I want to shout out though to can we shout out to
go for it.
Yeah, the Cuz, and big up Dustin Sisson and Blast House Studios, definitely for this new EP that we worked on. And so big up to Dustin, big up to Mike Olson at Madison Foundry, definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Tony, you should give a shout out to your wife.
Yeah.
We had a question come in as well. Somebody wanted to know how the name Zero
big
Hero
up to
came
Beth.
about.
Yeah.
Zero Hero. The only thing I don't like about being in a band is coming up with a band name. Some people really enjoy that process. I am not one of those people. So you go through this whole list of things, and then you got to find something that's not already taken, and then you got to figure out from a promotion side, is there a website available to do with this, all this other sort of thing. So I like the idea of Zero to Hero, but that's already taken in a million different ways, and so we kind of went with it. I like the sound of it, and we just threw it out there, and it worked because it wasn't around. And in retrospect, it was not an ideal choice, because when you say it on stage, everybody thinks you're saying something else other than Zeroed Hero. So
never too late to change, but why would you, right?
Pudge is already taken.
You guys have really good merch as well. You've got hats and T-shirts that the Zero Hero logo is like perfect. It looks really good on a hat, really good on a T-shirt. I heard that Dean and Chris had a cooking show, it says, in your bio, or for a while you guys were noodling on an online cooking show. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I like to eat. Good food is delicious, and I like to cook because it's fun. And I think being serious for just a brief minute, I've learned over time that one of the ways I show love and affection and appreciation for people in my life is by cooking meals for them. And I think that's probably rooted in the family I grew up in. And so I've put a focus on trying to teach myself how to cook and put together delicious food for people. And that just kind of translated into, we should definitely be cooking together. And Dean and I cook together, when we can, because it's another fun thing that we can collaborate on and do together. And then, we entertain the hell out of ourselves all the time. And so then once you get to that point, it's natural to just be like, hey, I bet everybody else would be endlessly entertained by this bullshit, which is not necessarily the case, but what the hell? Because anybody can do that these days because, of the internet and all that kind of thing. So there we are.
Thank you for that answer.
No disrespect to you, Andy.
We're getting near the end of the show, and I would be remiss if I did not ask you about the Madison Area Music Association's 2020 Breakthrough Artist of the Year. How did that feel? Congratulations, by the way.
Stefan?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It felt really good. Just getting some recognition. Finally, we did something positive, but it's good to be judged by your peers and stuff like that. So it's always good to be recognized. It's not what it's about, but it's good to be feeling part of the whole part of the music scene and everything. So you are recognized that you're bringing something to the table. That's the big part about it for me.
And you guys were supposed to play at a ceremony, right? But that was canceled because of COVID. Is there going to be a makeup date for that eventually, or that's just gone?
I think there was a date for that. They did a virtual award show early in October of 2020.
We had a question here. The question is from DJ Bear. He asks, how have the venues fared through the pandemic, and what places do you enjoy playing at?
Tony?
Yeah, the places I've liked to play, I feel like we've done well at High Noon, the Meadery. Trying to think where else we've played that. All the places we've played have been great, but those are probably the ones I'm kind of missing the most.
I know you guys posted about the Crystal at one point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, 2 of the venues that we've played already closed down, but pre-pandemic. So, it'll be interesting to see how this fares on the other side of this whole thing too. And we'll have to see how that goes, because there's new venues don't come online as quickly as venues leave the scene. It feels like.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody that is checking you out for the first time, is there a specific place you suggest they go? Possibly zerohero.com.
See, it's even tough for you, man. I'm telling you.
And do you feel that as far as like promoting this new single, do you feel it's a little harder to get to people? It's typically a show, you're playing with different bands, you're getting in front of their fans. Is it harder in this COVID world to get out there? Especially with all this, like, there's so many streaming shows now, isn't there?
It is harder, and I think one of the things that, as Stefan mentioned earlier, we really thrive as a live act, and I think that's what I've loved. One of the more things I've loved about the evolution of this band is we've become this studio concept into an actual live band, and our new music is oriented toward live performance, and I want to play Rise Up. We have not played that song outside of the studio yet, live, as it's completely written, and I am just chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Well,
right. And I think it's tough.
Definitely.
And yeah, we with the fucking COVID going on, it's so tough to try to balance all the competing interests that people have, and everybody everywhere is struggling through that, and it's hard to know what the right thing to do is, because you obviously want to keep yourself safe, you want to keep your family safe, and by family, us, all 4 of us and the people who are important to us. So you want to be making good decisions and that kind of a thing. But at the same time, there's, like we were talking about before, there's a natural pull for us to be together, to spend time together, to make music together. And there's tools that are becoming available to do some of that collaborative stuff on the internet, but it's not the same.
Yeah. It's just not the same. I think that, people experience music in different ways, and it's nice to sometimes be able to just hunker down with your headphones and really absorb something. But I feel like and our music, I think, is you can do that, but I think I'd like to think that people really get a different experience when we're playing live. You feel that energy, you see that energy, and so it's nice to do both. But I think getting a chance to play these songs live again is going to be sweet. It's going to, and hopefully it'll be well received, but I think it's going to be a nice offering.
I want to thank you guys for coming on Core today. The new single is awesome. I love it, and can't wait to hear what you guys have coming up in the future. We're going to end the show with a song off Love Letters to Mannequin called Precipice. Am I saying that right?
Yes. And this is our favorite. This is appropriate because this is our favorite song. Well, up until the new stuff, this was our favorite old song to play live, and we'd close our shows with this one because it was kind of a barn burner for us.
Yeah. Usually close with this one.
To all the people watching and listening.
Big shout out to everybody, man. If anybody gets a chance, go to our YouTube page, subscribe to our YouTube page, give us a like, and everybody, and just check us out, Zero to Hero.
Well said. We'll end it there.
We're waiting to see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Can't wait.